Good afternoon, and thank you to everyone who is joining our town hall today. We have a full house, and certainly that means in person as well as virtually. It really has been a pleasure to get to meet so many of my colleagues this week as we return to our physical locations beginning this past Monday. And I can see that there are a number of happy reunions going on as well. To those of you in your offices, I'm told that watching town halls from the office was once a common event at the college pre-pandemic. So in a way, we're stepping back into some normalcy. But after so many hundreds of Zoom sessions over the past 19 months, talking to a screen has become second nature to me, as I'm sure it has to many of you. So this week is a milestone, since we're all coming back to our offices and workspaces at the same time. I never thought that would be something we'd have to acknowledge, but the pandemic has upended much of what we once knew as normal. Part of the new normal, as you know, is keeping ourselves, our colleagues, and our students healthy. I hope you found some tools in and around your workspaces on Monday. I'm told that each of the campuses and college sites has some giveaways for helping everyone stay healthy and some treats to help sweeten our reunions. I will tell you that I had a sweet treat on the way here to the Tacoma Park Silver Springs campus today. I also hear that there are other celebrations going on as well to mark this transition. So, you know, even as we come back physically to our workspaces, we're still requiring that each one of us wears a mask. I realize that they can be tiring, so when you can, build in some breaks. We encourage some distancing if you're able. If you have a large conference room, spread yourselves out a bit. If you're in a classroom that's not filled to capacity, have your students spread out just a little bit. And let's understand that the college was planned and built before anyone had heard the term social distancing. So if you're in a small meeting room with a single person, rely on some creative solutions to make you feel comfortable. We're encouraging everyone to be flexible and use the kind of techniques and strategies that we've learned to enact in recent times as we settle into the next chapter of our own new world here at Montgomery College. So one of the few things that hasn't changed is that empowering our students to change their lives still matters. That's what I want to talk about today. The past 19 months have required us to change a lot about the way that we deliver and receive education. We've learned much about how well technology can serve certain needs. We should all give ourselves a lot of credit for the agility and flexibility that we've shown. But we've also learned is there are times and places where people really are essential. This is especially true for our students without adequate broadband, those who are navigating the college experience for the first time in their families, those who are not native speakers of English, and those who just do not learn as well remotely. So cumulatively, this is a large portion of our student body. They need us now more than ever, and we know that because they are not enrolling in numbers that reflect the need in our community. So part of this decline we know is pandemic related, certainly. Anxiety about being in face-to-face classrooms has been real. And I know that many of us carry that with us as we begin to work simultaneously in offices again. But part of it defies what we know about community college enrollment, that it generally increases when people are out of work. The pandemic economy has thrown us some real curveballs, and we're not sure how all of them are going to land. What we do know, however, is that the college has to position itself to connect with as many of the balls as possible. So what does that mean? It means that 70% of our classes are scheduled to be face-to-face in the spring. It means a vaccine requirement for students and employees. It means that we will also review requests for exemptions and take those requests seriously. 95% of our employees have already submitted their paperwork, and they did so by the deadline. We have to continue taking the daily health assessment, and we have to prioritize health. That's why we have a public health director now who provides leadership in this area and advises both the senior leaders and works closely with the Return to Campus Coronavirus Advisory Team. We have new standard for masks. They are required. And hand washing, you all know this. You should be doing it often and consistently. And finally, we have some practices around illness that we'll repeat. If you are sick, stay home. If you are sick, stay home. If you're symptomatic, you think you're sick, err on the side of caution and stay home. So it used to be, as we all know, a badge of honor for some to come to work with a raging headache or a terrible cough. This can be no more. And this is a culture change that we're all going to have to lean into. This affects the health of our entire community, so let's be thoughtful about it so we can limit the impact and best serve our mission. The truth is that we are already doing both. Over the past few weeks, we celebrated several events in person that embody our stakeholders' investment in the college. Some of you attended the in-person dedication of the Long Nguyen and Kimmy Dung Student Services Building. It was really inspirational. If you have not visited the building, please do so. It is the result of years of collaboration and student-centered planning. It embodies state-of-the-art student success and visionary work. And if you had had the opportunity to meet the donors, you would have been as delighted as I was to meet two individuals who've made it a lifetime commitment to use their resources to support philanthropy across the greater Washington region. And they came to Montgomery College to do just that. Along the same lines, the Macklin Business Institute's opening of the Finance Lab took place last week. It was a terrific celebration. I even talked about my jealousy at not having to do something like that in my previous employment. If you've not seen the new stock ticker on the lab, you really should. Now, you could find out one of two things, that the stocks you've invested in are going up or they're going down and you need to make a change. It's exciting to see such cutting-edge investments in students, and it's another example of how invested our community is in the college's success. The Germantown campus just had some high-level federal and state officials recently. You may recognize many of those faces even behind the mask. U.S. Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh, Senator Chris Van Hollen, Congressman David Trone, and the Maryland Secretary of Labor, Tiffany Robinson. They were gathering for a WorkSource Montgomery event, followed by a Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation activity. A few of these same individuals attended an America's Promise grant briefing on the Rockville campus on that same day. And these are really busy people, but they are also very much interested in the work that we're doing at Montgomery College to move our students and our community forward. They came to learn about the outcomes of the $5.4 million grant issued 4 years ago by the U.S. Department of Labor. It enabled short-term training across 3 counties. Montgomery County was the lead, and they partnered with Frederick Community College and Prince George's Community College to provide to 1,300 residents free hands-on training in a variety of technology programs. The result was that more than 500 individuals placed in highly skilled jobs, speeding up their movement in the career ladder, improving their salaries, and fueling the region with the tech talent. That's a real success. Another area of progress is at the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus, where we are today, where several members of the Maryland House of Delegates visited to view the Catherine and Isaiah Leggett Math and Science Building site at the end of October. I was there to thank the legislators for their support of the $97 million project, which is scheduled to open in the fall of 2023. It is wonderful to get to see these buildings move forward, as it has long been celebrated as another piece of the equity puzzle. On the topic of inclusion, I'll share another announcement that circles around a group of students who are often overlooked: student parents. You likely know that the college has an annual single-parent conference, which has drawn hundreds of students over the 5 years of the event. The college recently joined the Generation Hope Family U cohort to improve the family friendliness of the college. And just last month, we received an estate gift of $1 million from an anonymous donor to create a parent-student support fund to help single parents with scholarships and other needs as they enroll at Montgomery College. It can be easy to lose track of how many programs the college supports to empower all students to reach their potential. But this is yet another special one that is building momentum. So you all know that empowering students to change their lives is our mission. It was easy to be distracted by all of our pandemic-related adaptations. Empowering students and each other to get through the day was our mission for a very long time. The reality is that our communities all around us, and including us, are learning to live with this virus, and we cannot lose sight of the priorities that still need our attention to propel our students forward. Already during the fiscal year, of fiscal year 22, which began last July 1, we are number one, advancing the next level of student success. And that is continuing work for us here at Montgomery College. The planning that we're doing now around health and safety to bring back more face-to-face classes is geared towards student success, as are the many student support programs that are offered. The Achieving the Promise Academy, the Achieving Collegiate Excellence and Success Program, the Learning Centers, Embedded Coaches, Boys to Men, the Presidential Scholars Program, the libraries are all vital. The work on construction of the Leggett Building, the opening of the Win Dong Student Center, and the Macklin Business Institute Lab are all student-focused efforts designed around helping students reach their goals. And there are many, many more than I could share with you today, given the time that we have. A second related effort is enhancing enrollment management, making sure that students know about the college, ensuring that we have the right combination of scholarships, financial aid information, recruiters, counselors. The pandemic has changed the game in the higher education marketplace, and the college is adapting in these critical areas with increased attention to enrollment. We are in the process of identifying an interim associate vice president who will report to the senior vice president for student affairs, with collaboration from the senior vice president for advancement and community engagement. That person will advise us, the senior leaders, on our strategic enrollment work. And number three, we're going to complete, to the extent that we can, the advising redesign. Counseling and advising is so critical, and it's an experience that all of our students need. It's tied closely to successful completion and transfer. So to ensure that it's consistent and streamlined, we'll continue to work through the redesign process that was begun by Dr. Pollard and the task force she created. And let me be clear, The retention of our students is the responsibility of each one of us. It doesn't matter where we work, on what campus we reside, or whether or not our work is student-facing. But what it says is there are some particular activities that we need to ensure that students can engage in to the fullest, and that happens both across student affairs and academic affairs. So number 4, returning to a physical work site, returning to campus, and we're here. We're already doing it, but we understand that there may be adjustments to be made along the way. We'll continue, as I've said time and time again, to prioritize health and safety while attending to student and employee needs. The college has done an outstanding job for these last 19 months and will continue to do so. So we followed the science when we talked about guidance for prevention protocols, and that's what drove the vaccine requirement, and we'll continue to make decisions that align with the best scientific understanding of health. And then as we move ahead with planning, so the 5th priority is our presence in East County. We are expanding opportunity in a region with some very real educational needs. This is an exciting process that has brought together community input, stakeholders, transportation experts, strategic planning, and local government. The college is working to decide on a location and open an educational center to provide service and classes, credit, and workforce. So most likely this will start with workforce development and continuing education, but it will expand very quickly to credit classes. And as a matter of fact, given the conversation we were having earlier today, we may do both simultaneously. Funding for the center's lease, staffing, and operations is key. We're looking at instructional spaces, potentially for a community engagement center, student health and wellness centers, and a number of other support programs. So there'll be classrooms, staff and faculty offices, and meeting spaces. And we'll keep talking to you about this because at some point, in addition to the implementation team, we will need your help, your guidance, your perspectives, and your opinions. So even in the midst of all of this activity, we have not lost sight of what I would call priority number 6, the presidential transition. As I am sure you are aware, the college's Board of Trustees has been very hard at work searching for the next college leader, and they are joined by some of our colleagues on the search committee. The board hosted 4 forums in September to share information and gather input, 3 for the internal college community and 1 for the external community. The board's search firm has been working on recruitment, and the search advisory committee of 23 members, as well as the board chair, have been working tirelessly on this. And I want to thank them for that. The board is aiming to announce the appointment of a new president before winter break. Now, I feel certain that whomever steps in at the college will share the value that we've placed on priority number 7, advancing the college's anti-racism roadmap. We continue to work not only to educate ourselves about anti-racism, but to help other institutions build their capacities as well. The Board of Trustees and several, I would say 2 members of the Board of Trustees and several college staff members recently presented on the college's work at the annual conference of the Association of Community College Trustees. We received a lot of positive feedback from the presentation, questions about how did you do that? What is the culture at Montgomery College that would even support some of this? How are your students reacting to it? How are the employees, our colleagues at the college reacting to it? And how do you see it manifesting itself in policies, procedures, programs, and the like? So with that positive feedback, we also had the opportunity to register some of those who were present at the presentation for the recent dialogue on critical race theory that has been so meaningful. You may have also heard that the college is officially standing up a Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Campus Center, which prepares the next generation of leaders to advance justice and to build equitable communities. So, for fiscal year 22, another success that we'll be celebrating soon is priority number 8, the launch of Workday. Parts of Workday have already been operationalized, as I'm sure you know. I am reading the same emails that you are from the Human Resources Strategic Talent Management Office, and I'm going into the system and checking everything that they're asking us to check to make sure that it's true and accurate. And so far, I'm feeling pretty good about what I'm seeing. The full package of components is in the final testing phase now, and the banner system for human resources and finance will officially be replaced in January of 2022. So I know, and you know, that this has been a long process. You've certainly been dealing with it much longer than I have. But a lot of hard work has gone into it, and Workday is going to streamline a number of processes that we use every day. We're all eager to get to the final stage. So even as we balance all of this activity, the college continues to plan proactively for fiscal year 23, which begins on July 1 of 2022. So I've asked senior leadership, and they've responded by focusing on our fiscal year 23 budget and planning priorities. So the first priority for fiscal year 23 is accelerating student success. The next fiscal year is going to be a really a new chapter for us, but it will be a continuation of the drive for student success. The college will need to continue to be nimble with its academic programmatic offerings, such as this new degree, which was approved this past year. As you can see in the slide, degrees can lead to jobs in high-demand fields, many of which didn't exist 10 years ago. Throughout this process, we have to keep in mind institutional stability. The pandemic upended what were once predictable models of revenue and spending, and we have to regain our footing. While the federal HERF grants have helped significantly, we have to remember they are one-time funds. And when they are gone, they are gone. We are using them as prudently as we can, and I really want to thank the committee that is handling the HERF grants and making recommendations for not just their opinions and perspectives, but for their thoughtfulness about how we can use those dollars so that we can still reap the benefit of them in the future. The college is planning now for increased future costs that may have started with the pandemic, but will not be covered by federal assistance in the future. Priority number 2 for fiscal year 23 is revitalizing our community and business engagement. We've always been engaged with the needs of the community and our local businesses, but even now it is more crucial. Our entire region is recovering, and our state is recovering from the pandemic, and the college is an engine of job training and economic restructuring upon which many of our residents, our neighbors, our friends, our families will rely. Priority number 3 is managing our enrollment strategically. You will likely see that over the next several years that will be a continued theme and a continued priority. I touched on that in the fiscal year that we're currently in. The reality is that most higher education institution has had to reconsider the enrollment plans made before the pandemic, and we are no different here at Montgomery College. Some new expertise and leadership in this space is on the horizon, and we certainly hope to glean much from the expert that we're going to bring on board. So the most important leadership change is, again, another priority that will run over both fiscal years is a new president. We want to transition the new president successfully to their role and integrate his or her thinking into the next chapter of the college. So some of the college's energies may be redirected, they may shift, but I predict that the next president will be someone who embraces the underlying values of Montgomery College. And finally, we're going to focus on workforce alignment as a priority for fiscal year 23. So this has two distinct meanings. First, aligning the offerings of the college with the workforce needs of local business and industry. I mentioned earlier that WorkSource Montgomery, a longtime partner of the college's, held an important meeting recently at the Germantown campus with a number of stakeholders. The college is obviously in the middle of a lot of workforce development activity and conversations. The second alignment is the college's own workforce. As an institution, we are continually asking ourselves, and we have some questions that I'll go over where we're being asked again. Is our workforce serving the institution's evolving needs? And how does that happen in higher education? I know that the Office of Human Resources and Strategic Talent Management is working with HR experts from the Fiscal firm on a study that should bear some valuable insight. So we'll keep that in mind and have some public conversations about it in the very near future. But what I would also posit is that we are not Microsoft or Google. So as we talk about the future of work at Montgomery College, we need to have that conversation in line with who we serve and why we exist in this community. So we should be talking about the future of work in higher education and specifically at community colleges. So as you can see, while we would like it to be, strategic planning is not a luxury. It can feel less urgent during a crisis, but it is no less important. The pandemic has diverted some of our attention, but the college has continued to move these priorities forward. We have kept our planning process active and our fiscal measures strategic. Challenges remain. Enrollment is just one of them. But we're opening a new chapter in our commitment to returning more students to healthy classrooms and more of each one of us to healthy workspaces. And we want to make sure that we have the support that students need across all of our campuses and locations. So I know that we have a few questions from the audience and some from the virtual world. So Vice President and Provost of the Tacoma Park Silver Springs campus, Brad Stewart, will be helping me to sort through the questions that have come in and answer those in person. So when you come to the mic, I think, are you going to give us some instructions? So please, would you do that?
Thank you, Dr. Dukes. And before she answers any questions, please give her a big hand for that amazing briefing that she just provided us. I learned a lot of stuff that I should be doing, so I'll get to work on that tomorrow, Dr. Dukes. As she said, I'm Brad Stewart. I'm the VPP here at TPSS, and I've been selected to help moderate the question period. Let me remind you that town halls are supposed to be informative. If you have a question, please ask it directly and succinctly. This is not speech class. A town hall is your chance to interact with leadership in order to further the work of the institution for everyone. Civil discourse and robust intellectual inquiry are values integral to colleges and universities. So let's model our best civic engagement behavior as we do in our classrooms and other college settings. And a final note, if your question concerns the efficacy or the safety of vaccines, be aware that the MC Board of Trustees, the college's senior leadership, concur with the conclusions reached by the Centers for Disease Control, the FDA, Montgomery County, the state of Maryland, and the world scientific community that the vaccines work and that they are safe for those over 5 years of age. After you ask your question, please go back to your chair and Dr. Dukes will get you the answer. So don't stay at the mic. Please sit down when you're done with your question. And I'm going to invoke some provost privilege here since I'm hosting you. 3 of my people get to go first in the audience. And so Sharon Fector, Dean of Humanities, you're first.
have to lower this a little. Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Dr. Dukes. Good afternoon. I am Sharon Fechter. I'm the Dean of Humanities. I want to begin by thanking you for promoting humanities events college-wide in your communications. It's much appreciated. I also wanted to applaud the strong academic focus throughout the strategic plan and through our planning priorities. You know, we hear a lot about STEM, and believe me, with very good reason. At the same time, the humanities, training in the humanities, can lead students to jobs in teaching, in government, law, communications, all critically important to a robust democracy. So my question is, how can we balance having a wide variety of humanities offerings and still be strategic about enrollment? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, and it's good to see you again, Dean. Absolutely. So the first thing I should tell you is that my undergraduate degree is in English. So I absolutely understand the role of the humanities, and all of my work experience has been on the student affairs side of the house in higher education. So I also understand how a role or responsibility that is not typically one that ascends to the presidency can also add some new thinking and new light on the work that we do. And I believe that as we are moving through the world today, and I believe this was the case pre-pandemic and will certainly be the case post-pandemic, is that we've got to figure out how the humanities and technology come together. I've always said from a perspective of student support that it is both high touch and high tech. So even in the question that you ask, I think it is not either or, it is both. And how do they come together? I can't imagine anyone who's in any of your classes or programs of study who don't understand the need for technology. And conversely, I would say that those who are in high-tech demand jobs have to understand the need for communication, critical thinking, logic, and the like. So I think that they can come together, and I will ask, is Dr. Rai here? Because I have to believe that he believes that as well. And he's going to confirm that when he comes to the mic.
Confirmed. Thank you. So for the record, I am almost an English major because I graduated in mathematics. Just another language, that's what it is. But to be very serious, I think, as Dr. Duke said, it's a combination. It's not either or. You know, I think CEO of Apple put it together very nicely that if computers thinks like human, it's okay. But humans shouldn't think like computer, right? So that's an important thing. What's happening at Montgomery College? Our Paul Peck Humanities Institute. Then our Global Humanities Institute. Those are excellent efforts. And just recently, you saw all the Humanities Week celebrations. That's very important. So those are experiential opportunities for our students. But think about what we are doing programmatically. So, for example, your own discipline, philosophy, how computer science and engineering program are working with philosophers. And they just started offering this class, ethics for computer scientists, because our computer scientists have figured out how to program a self-driving car, but they are stuck with ethical issues. If you're programming a car, if you are driving a car, a kid comes in front of your car, you have two options, either drive over, and suppose, you know, the other option is to take your own family into a ditch. How do you want to program a car or AI software to make those kinds of decisions? So interdisciplinary collaboration is important. Our academic programs are already moving in that direction. Just this morning, I was a little bit late coming here because I was meeting with some data analytics folks from University of Maryland. And the whole idea of democratization of data, analytics with empathy, right? So folks who are in anthropology area, they are fit for data analytics. Google is hiring folks with linguistics background and teaching them some data analytics because pure data folks cannot do what is expected there. Your basic background in linguistics is more important. So we will be offering similar analytics programs, supply chain programs, where every academic program has integration. Just go and look at what's happening at the University of Berkeley. Data science or data analytics embedded through every single program. The idea is that our students have to be employable, and what humanities art students bring in their education that is so vitally important for our businesses and industries. And I think, Dean Factor, you also mentioned teaching. In the next 10 years, Maryland needs 64,000 teachers. So just think about how much work is ahead for us for all disciplines just in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you again for the question.
Now I'd like to introduce the heartbeat of the TPSS campus for many of our students, Ms. Carla Neighbors.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Dukes, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it. In your presentation, you mentioned there was a decline in enrollment. You also mentioned the enrollment management. So my question is specifically, what strategies or specific plan does the college have to increase student enrollment?
So, you know, the reason why we are moving in the direction that we are is because we do know that we have a number of we've had a number of facilitated discussions here at the college with regard to enrollment, and enrollment management is really the strategy that we want to begin to look at. What does it mean in terms of ensuring that we have programs that are going to draw students here? How do we ensure that we continue to have and enhance support services for students? How do we make sure that they understand our language? The one thing that I've always said, and again, it probably is because of my background in student affairs, someone comes to campus and I know how out of sorts I feel when I go into a community and I don't understand the language. And if you think I don't know, ask John Hammond. We were having a discussion earlier today, and I said to him, okay, wait a minute, put it in layperson's terms for me. But we start talking about things like registration and applications, and have you done this, and have you done this? And when we talk about who we know our student body is, many of them have never heard this kind of language and don't know how to interpret it. So as somebody comes in to work with us, because I see it as a team of individuals across all of our campuses and locations, certainly led by some of our senior vice presidents, that they're going to do some research, they're going to take the data that we've already gleaned, they're going to listen to some of the things that we're already doing, but they're also going to work to help us listen to the community around what their needs are and how it has the potential to change the way in which we offer things, the way in which we greet and support students. So I don't have the exact answer, but I do know that there is enough brain power at this institution, and we're going to bring someone else in who understands enrollment management as a strategy. Most community colleges, what we're used to is open the doors and they will come, even if they come 2 weeks before classes start, right? Because we fret all summer, and then 2 weeks before classes start, there's a deluge. Something different has been happening, and we've got to figure that out. That students are electing more options, and to deal with those options much more differently than they might have 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. So we have to reintroduce, I believe, our public and our community to who Montgomery County is and the role that it can play in helping our residents, their children, business and industry reach their respective dreams and aspirations. So that's what it is in a nutshell. Maybe it sounds a little pie in the sky, but I believe that we can do this. We have to do this. Thank you.
So we've had a question from academics, and we had one from student affairs. Equal time goes to our facilities folks. This is Ali Fadl, our director of facilities.
Well, you know, I can't pick up a hammer, a saw, or nail, so ask me an easy one.
I'll do my best. Thank you, Brad, and good afternoon, Dr. Dukes. Welcome to Tacoma Park. So as Brad said, I'm from facilities, so obviously my question is going to be about buildings. So I was wondering if there are any updates on the new East Campus development or planning, and also if you think that recent pedagogical trends in the classroom might influence or inform the design of this new campus, such as high-flex classrooms, et cetera. Thank you.
You answered the question, all of the above. Everything is going to impact it. We want to make sure that we are serving all of the residents of Montgomery County. And that means that we have there is a need for a presence in East County. We also want to make sure that we're not underserving the underserved. And many of you have probably heard that before from Dr. Pollard, so I'm channeling Dr. P. And so what that means is that we're going to look very seriously at the types of programs we offer, some that may be short-term credentials and certifications that have the potential to get residents of East County into the workplace very quickly, but they also should be programs that are what we call stackable credentials, that what they learn, they should be able to continue, they can get out, get a great paying job, but continue their education. And nothing that they've done in the past should hamper their ability to get an associate's degree, move on to a bachelor's degree, whatever, a higher level degree, whatever their desires are. So I think that as Dr. Rai and his team begin to look at the offerings, we're going to make sure that there's short-term training, and there's also the opportunity for associate degrees at that site. It is our hope that over time, we're not just talking about an education center, but we are also talking about what could be the beginnings of a fourth campus for Montgomery College. So thank you for the question.
Dr. Dukes, I want to give some equal time to people in our virtual audience. So I took the privilege of combining questions from a couple of folks that you know. This comes from Ramon de la Cruz and from Clary Brown, who both work in CT. And they're curious about having boasted a robust MC telework policy prior to the pandemic. How does that policy remain robust in the post-pandemic world? And now that society is shifting and the metaverse, not my word, will potentially change higher education.
So I think that I certainly started to answer that question in my own comments, that what we need to understand is what does the world of work look like from a number of different perspectives, including alternative work schedules within higher education. So as many of you know, that regular telework plans are an annual agreement between the college and employees in eligible positions. Now that tells me right there that everyone who works at the college actually does not sit in an eligible position for teleworking. Now, we also cannot really base the future on what was an emergency situation in the past. Every one of us who was engaged in higher education and many other industries across the country, I know that for us, it coincided almost with spring break. We left on on March 13th or 14th or 15th, didn't return, the following Monday, and put a lot of things in place because we wanted to stay true to our pillar of health and safety, and we wanted to stay true to serving students in the best way that we could. If any of us could write a book, publish a text about all of the things that we were able to do to keep this engine called higher education running, we would probably have more to say than pages that we could fill. But it is important that we regroup, reset, and recalibrate after the pandemic experience of extensive remote working. So we need to rebuild our communities a bit. And we are working at phasing in telework. The one thing that you all already know is that there is 1 day a week that is reserved for teleworking for every employee who's eligible to do so across all of our locations. But, you know, as students return in increasing numbers to our classrooms and employees return to workspaces, we have to reassess which needs are best met in person and those that can be best served through a teleworking arrangement. So I've already said it can be tempting to compare ourselves to other kinds of industries and businesses and organizations, but we are not them and they are not us. So what I can tell you, though, across higher education is that we are all grappling with this topic. We were together last week with the American Association of Community College presidents from across the country. And I can assure you at every table, the discussion was about how are we bringing our employees back to our physical locations, what's happening with students, how do we bridge the gap, the divide, how do we reassess, reset, and recalibrate, and how do we also understand that the ways in which we work are changing, and to be able to understand what those ways are and give it a chance to work. So I would say in answer to the question, we are here to reset, reassess, and recalibrate, and we expect that sometime around mid-February or so, we'll start taking applications again for telework for 1, 2, or 3 days maximum for eligible positions. And those eligible positions have the potential to change. You know, what was eligible almost a year and a half ago, may be very different than what's eligible as we think about the future. That number could go up, that number could go down. I don't know, but we have a lot of people around the table who are talking about it, who are leading us in the discussion, and they're not doing it alone. They are talking with colleagues from across community colleges and four-year institutions.
Thanks, Dr. Dukes. So I'll read one more question from the virtual universe, and then I'll try to look around real quickly and grab the first couple of hands I see from the audience here for people who want to ask questions. This comes from Amanda Stroud in the Germantown Library. And with the emphasis on 70% in-person classes, what happens in the spring semester schedule if a large number of students decide they don't want in-person classes after all?
So, you know, we put together a schedule. The first thing I'll tell you with regard to the spring that we believe supports the needs of what we're hearing from students. Now, if that need changes, then the percentage of classes offered face-to-face and virtually or in some sort of hybrid way may indeed change. So to date, what I would tell you, we have about 300 enrollments. Now, you all know the definition of enrollments does not equate to actual head count, because we could have one student taking 4 classes. The 4 is what counts as an enrollment, not the 1. So we have about 300 enrollments in remote sections. It's about the same in distance learning, and almost double that, 5,870 in on-campus face-to-face sites. So we ask departments to build a lean schedule, and we will add as much or take away, you know, as we find out more information, and that information is really looking at enrollment patterns. What are students registering for? So as we've done throughout the pandemic, we're working really hard to be responsive to student needs, and we know that that's evolving. And the one thing I will say about the team here at Montgomery College is that they are evolving and stretching themselves as well. So we'll respond in real time. You all know that there have always been remote options at the college, and there will continue to be some. We have 5 degrees that are entirely online, so that already tells you that we understand that we'll still continue to have a significant contribution to remote work and remote learning. So I would say that you should also know that all our STEM labs will be offered face-to-face, as well as some art classes. So we're going to balance it, and as we see things getting out of sync based upon our best thinking, we will readjust.
Thanks, Dr. Dukes. Who from the audience wants to ask Dr. Dukes a direct and succinct question? Len?
Toward me, which we all know was directed toward me. So I have a question I really didn't want to ask today because I encountered something at the campus down here. Who is it that sets the protocol or procedures for the testing as far as those who have at this point opted out to receive the shot? Because at this point, my understanding was that it was set for one time per week, and there would be 72 hours in advance. Because I've heard that somebody is being forced to do it every other day down here.
So I don't know about someone being forced to do testing every other day. That might be a particular circumstance or situation, which I would expect between our Director of Public Health and the HR STM office would have come to some conclusion around that. But and I should ask, I don't know, Ms. Glimpf, if you want to answer the question around the once-a-week testing protocols and
Sure.
how that came to be.
Sure, thanks for the question. So as it relates to the once per week, we wanted to make sure that before someone actually came to any of our campuses, that we made sure that they were tested first, obviously to make sure that everyone remained safe. And so that's the reason for once a week. We didn't want it to be too challenging for anyone to get tested at this time more than once a week. And also the numbers didn't dictate us having anything more than just that once a week. Numbers in the county are a lot, the overall COVID numbers are low at this point, and so that's the reason for just once a week for testing.
Okay, so a department isn't given discretion to force an employee to do it every other day.
There's no one in any of our campuses that are getting every other day of testing.
That's not true.
So
I
if
know
you
of
know
I know of an
something,
individual.
Okay.
so Len,
Okay,
if
I
I
don't-
could ask you, if you know something that we should be aware of, then what I'd like you to do is to talk with Ms. Glimpf and with Ms.
Okay.
Leach Walker, because no one at the college should be setting a criteria that is different from what we have said.
And I didn't think so, and I
Okay.
didn't even want to have to ask that. I wasn't even prepared, like until this morning when I was down here. I didn't even know that was being forced on somebody.
Len, this is not a conversation. I need to, you know, the rules
I
are
mean,
sitting down.
But Dr. Dukes was addressing me, and
Okay.
I mean,
Yes, you can hear each other from your seat.
I mean, are you speaking for her? I had
No,
asked
I'm
the question, she
speaking
was
for me.
responding to me.
So it's
And the
hard
rules
for
I
me
set
to
up
hear
said you
what's
needed to
going
sit
on, but
down.
what I don't want to do is, I don't want to be repetitive in any of our earlier engagement. So if you have a final question, I'll go ahead and answer it. You indicated that someone may be required to do something more often than the timeline that we had set, and I want you to make sure that you share that information with Ms. Leach Walker so that she can handle it immediately.
Okay.
All right?
Mhm.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Len. Appreciate it. Who else? Sean? You got to come to the mic.
You could come to this mic if you want. You're already there? Okay. And if you would do me a favor, just lift your mask a little bit so, I don't know why I can't hear with mask on. Isn't that like weird?
Yeah, it is a little weird. Well, thank you so much for doing this. My name is Sean Quiroga. I'm the Student Senate President on the TPSS campus. I'm so glad to see everyone here back in person a little bit. It's back to a little bit of a normal. So yeah, I'm glad to see you. Thank you for this town hall as well. I'm glad to just be here, and I'm excited for the spring as well. That relates to my question about the spring. There's obviously, we're returning back to campus with a 70% in person and 30% over virtual. In the scenario that there are COVID cases that do rise with the students on campus, and that may cause for caution that students are being sent home and students may not want to be in campus, is there any way that it could be we could return to fully online in the spring if there's a cause for COVID cases to go up in the spring?
Well, what I would say to you, if I understand your question, is that do we have the ability to pivot quickly if we need to, and that students who are in face-to-face classes, that somehow those could go to a remote structured sort of process if we need to, right? And I would say that the answer is yes, that we've learned that where it's appropriate to do so, we would do it. Where it isn't, we would certainly try to work with the student and the faculty member. And Dr. Rai wants to add something to that.
Yeah, certainly we are prepared to make changes if we have to. Let's hope we don't have to do that. But let me tell you one thing. If you are planning face-to-face and going to virtual, is easier. If you plan a lot of virtual and if you have to come to face-to-face, that's much harder. Thank you.
And the other thing you know is that we are also going to require that students be vaccinated or, I believe, apply for an exemption. And that is required by January 7th. So we're certainly getting information out, not just to our current students, but even as new applicants are coming in and the like, we're working with them. Thank you.
Dr. Dukes, Professor Odella Hagen from Health, Exercise Science, PE, and Behavioral Health is concerned that MC might eliminate the masking requirement for spring semester. She says she teaches in classrooms in one of the oldest buildings at MC. The classrooms I've been assigned to can hold a very crowded 28 students, and as it is, students must crawl over one another to get to their seats. Do you have any update for her or any information about when we'll know how long we'll stay masked?
Well, we're going to stay masked until we aren't. So my intent is I've purchased a number of new masks to go with almost every outfit, so that at the very least I need to wear them at least once, right? And if I've purchased 872 new masks, then that's 872 times that I need to wear one. Now that is just a slight joke, okay? What we are going to do is follow the RTCAT team, the Return to Campus Advisory Team, because they're continuously monitoring the rates of COVID-19 infections and hospitalizations and other data, and they make recommendations almost weekly. And in some cases, it's been a little less than that on masking and other COVID-19 protection protocols. So right now, what I would say to you is that it is certainly our expectation that we will be masked through the end of this semester. We will be monitoring things over the course of the week or 6 days, 7 days or so that we will have for winter break, and that will make a determination as to whether or not we would send out any message that says come back unmasked. Right now, I don't think that there is any one of us who is comfortable about not having a mask on or not having the opportunity to put on a mask if we were to change something, that we want you to be comfortable. So if we were to come back and say, given all the data, all the numbers, and what we're being advised from the RTCAT team and our Director of Public Health, then we may say we're not going to wear masks. But what I would also say is, but if you feel comfortable wearing a mask, that certainly is more than just allowable. It's permissible. It is a decision that you can make. The decision you cannot make is that you are not going to wear a mask if we are still in a wear mask kind of posture.
Well, thank you. Anybody else from the audience have a question? Mic's open.
So I think there was something too about HVAC systems.
Yeah.
So let me talk about that. So you know that this American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning recommends that all facilities maximize the fresh air exchanges to the greatest extent possible. So according to our facilities experts, and we've already heard from one, so if we need to call you back to the mic, we will. And I think, is Mr. Mills here too? Okay, good. That All Montgomery College facilities are operating with the maximum air exchanges possible for the system installed. Our older HVAC systems have been recommissioned and recalibrated to meet the maximum air exchange parameters that were in place at the time of their initial installation. So we know that systems in non-medical buildings play only a minimal role in infectious disease transmission. So they recommended using what they call MERV. I have no idea what that stands for, but MERV 13 filtration or higher in facilities. And currently, the facilities that are planned to be open for spring 2022 have that filtration. And you should have seen, or maybe I'll share it with you for the first time today, that we have used more than $10 million in HERF funding on air quality assessment and recalibration. We had an independent mechanical engineering firm come and do assessments, and for those buildings that could not be brought up to this MERV 13 filtration, the Office of Facilities is working with the HERF grants team to contract for replacement air handling units and system upgrades. So we are working on that. I would hope that, given the fact that the semester will end, and I think classes will not begin until sometime after the third week or so of January, that we will be able to have had those systems installed. And if there is any need for additional information, then we'll certainly get that from our facilities team.
A couple of related questions here, or not directly related, but Kimberly Jones from Student Affairs and Student Life here at TPSS would like to know about what your prediction is about our ability to continue to attract international students to Montgomery College in the face of the effects of the pandemic.
So what I would say is, and I know that having had the opportunity to meet on more than one occasion with the chair of the College Council, that the College Council looks at a number of things across Montgomery College and makes some recommendations with regard to where we might change something for the better, where we might place some additional emphasis on the strategies that we're employing. So it is true that the college faced a lot of struggles with decreased enrollment of our international population, and that there were so many travel bans that were put in place. So one of the questions is, have numbers shifted with this current administration? I believe that it is too early to tell where the Biden administration is going with that and what we have the potential to do. Many of you know that actually the United States of America has been on the ban list for many other countries because of some of the things we were not doing with regard to COVID-19 transmission. In some places, those bans are being lifted, and in other places, countries are in a wait-and-see mode. And even if Americans or residents of this country travel there, they are required to do testing on a much regular basis. So as in all student categories, I would say to Kimberly, our foreign students have seen, or international students have seen, a decline over the past several years. They're returning to a slightly higher percentage of our student population, but quite frankly, when you see that our entire student population has declined over the past 4 years or so, then you can imagine that even if we're increasing by 1 or 2 students, it's not making a real dent in the work that we want to do. So we would also hope to see that as we think about enrollment management and the strategies that we would employ, we also want to look at how we can support more students who may be in this country but are considered international, and that they can recognize that Montgomery College is a home for them.
Matt, did you have a question?
Hi, Dr. Dukes. A few people have already asked something similar, so if you had anything to add, or like timelines, kind of interested, I came with a question. My name is Matt Wilson, and I'm a program assistant in WDCE Health Sciences. So we do all like the 2 to 3 month training courses that lead to jobs. So first, I'd like to join those who thank you for stepping out of retirement to help us. It is appreciated. As someone who lives in East County, I've been following the college's proposed expansion with interest. I know the college would like to move forward with an East County presence, so I was wondering, are you able to give us an update as to where things stand? Anything additional that you may have to offer? Thank you.
You know what I would tell you, and thank you, it's great to meet you as well and to meet a resident of East County. So, you know, there are some things that we could possibly learn from you too. So if we reach out to you and you see my name, answer the call, all right? But, you know, we're at this point where we're trying to pull some numbers together to understand financially what it would mean. We're pulling some data together based upon at least initial programs of study, both workforce development, continuing education, and what we know as traditional academic programs. We're pulling all of that together so that we can make a presentation to our partners in local government about what we think would work and how that aligns with the vision that they have for East County. So I think as we continue to move along, we'll be very transparent in sharing information with the college community, and I would just reiterate again the ability to learn from someone who lives in East County and clearly has a commitment to what can happen for residents there, that we would welcome your voice. So thank you for that. Okay, does Dr. Kane know who you are? He does? Okay, good, because I was going to have him come introduce himself to you and take your work number, your cell number. Okay, thank you.
I know where his office is. We got him. Anybody who hasn't asked a question yet would like a shot at the mic.
So, you know, I will tell you that I'm one of those, unless you have another question, that I don't believe in dragging things on just because. But what I do want to do is end with thanking everyone for all of your participation. I want to thank MCTV, which always does a fantastic job making this event accessible, and everything else that I've attended where you've been present. Thank you for that. And I want to thank Brad Stewart for accommodating our request to come to Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus and to help me manage the flow of questions. And most of all, I want to thank each one of you who has just an undeniable commitment to this institution and to the community in which it resides. I continue to be inspired by your dedication and even your hard questions. That is what we're here for, to make sure that to the extent possible that we answer your questions. And if you think it hasn't been answered, please feel free to reach out to me to make that happen. We know that you're dedicated to student success because I hear it all the time, I see it all the time, and I actually get emails about it. So even as we face both our personal and professional concerns, so many of you have dug deep to show up for students and make sure that their future opportunities are realized. It is different for us as we return to our physical workspaces, but what I can assure you is that students have been here waiting for us. I think you've heard that from our student government leader here at Tacoma Park Silver Springs. I hear it when I've gone to Germantown and Rockville campuses, how excited they are to be back. And what we want to do is, to the extent that we can, is to reopen our doors in ways that our community knows that we continue to be here for them. So I appreciate you all, and please have a great rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in.